When I resumed at Obafemi University, I felt it was too good to be true to have gained admission to the school. For whatever reason, I felt I wasn't worthy. I felt like a fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, it was imposter syndrome at play, and it affected me big time.
I, like many others, walked into that school with a stigma in my own head. More young people nowadays call it imposter syndrome. I don't know if they call it that in Britain, where kids like me feel like they don't belong. And I had to work to overcome that question that I always ask myself, am I good enough? And I write about that. That's a question that has dogged me for a good part of my life. Am I good enough to have all of this? Am I good enough to be the First Lady of the United States? And I think that many women, and definitely many young girls of all backgrounds, walk around with that question.
Hello, amazing you. How are you doing? Welcome to Chat Hour. If you're stopping by for the first time, welcome and thank you. And if you are returning, welcome and thank you. If you like what you see, do well to click the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and hit the like button as well. Thank you. Story time. When I was in my final year in secondary school, my fellow boarders, as I was a boarder, I was in the boarding house. My fellow boarders and I sat together to share the higher institutions would love to attend. Some of my mates and I mentioned Obafemi Awolowo University. Now, at the end of the day, I was the only boarder in my set who gained admission to Obafemi Awolowo University. But I think when I got to year two, also, yes, I think year two, I ran into a boarder in my set who left UI for OAU. Now, why am I telling this story? When I resumed at Obafemi Awolowo University, I felt it was too good to be true to have gained admission to the school. For whatever reason, I felt I wasn't worthy. I felt like a fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, it was imposter syndrome at play, and it affected me big time. Self-doubt is a silent killer. On this episode of Chat Hour, we're talking imposter syndrome and how to overcome it. So many people are undercut by self-doubt without even realizing how much it's harming the course of your life. Do you feel like a fraud? Many people do. Perhaps you started a new job and believe you have less experience than you need, despite being the perfect candidate on paper. Or maybe your boss trusted you with an assignment that you feel totally unprepared to lead, regardless of your flawless track record. There is a name for this feeling: imposter syndrome. Around 1/3 of young people suffer from it, and 70% of everyone else is likely to experience this at some point in their lives. Imposter syndrome is often tied to our identities and sense of self-worth. There are critical attributes of the phenomenon. Oh yes, one of those: you second guess yourself a lot. There is nothing wrong in rethinking your decision-making process and assessing choices you've made, but constant second guessing is a waste of time. Thinking that people have an exaggerated view of your abilities, the fear of being exposed as a fraud, the continuous tendency to downplay your achievements. Imposter syndrome typically shows up when we decide to take on new roles or new responsibilities, and it can result in feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, and guilt. Those who experience imposter syndrome may end up sabotaging their own success, obsessing over minor mistakes, or working twice as hard to prove themselves as a result. If you're beginning a new job or first job, or just going through a change at work, overcoming imposter syndrome may feel impossible, like trying to remove a piece of clothing stuck to your skin. But if you fail to manage it now, it can have a detrimental impact on your performance and lead to burnout and depression in the longer run. Now, let's talk about a few strategies that have helped me overcome these destructive feelings. You can become a better version of yourself at work and in life by giving them a try. Oh yes, keep a positive mindset. Many of us tend to downplay our achievements. In an attempt to be humble, we brush them off by saying our success was just a product of luck or good timing. Now, listen, while humility is admirable, too much of it can hurt rather than help you, especially if you're already fostering feelings of self doubt. We have to intentionally acknowledge our accomplishments and abilities. Oh, yes. In a sense, it can be compared to mindfulness. When we push ourselves to remain in the present as opposed to posit about the future or worry about the past, we can focus more clearly on the reality of our situations and more easily let anxious thoughts go. Imposter syndrome is just a temporary memory loss. Oh, yes, where you've forgotten all the amazing things about you. Yes, we can mitigate imposter syndrome by reflecting on and reminding ourselves of our strengths on a regular basis. The second point, worthy of note, is you've got to celebrate your wins. We often get so focused on outcomes of our work that we forget to take a pause and honor ourselves. We worry that it's a waste of time or that it will make us seem like show offs. But celebrating yourself is a simple and fun way to combat imposter syndrome. Another point is thinking about many ways you can share the lessons you've learned from your accomplishments. By reframing self promotion as an exchange of value and self enthusiasm, you can inspire others while mitigating your internal fears. For example, if you write a post on LinkedIn celebrating your new job, consider mentioning what you learned during the hiring process. Did you discover that you're resilient or the importance of soft skills? Whatever it was, don't keep it to yourself. You never know who you will influence. There is no point in being the world's best secret. You can have the best product or service, but nobody will know you exist if you do not put yourself out there. The more you put yourself out there, the more people will see you as a thought leader in your industry. While external validation can only go so far, seeing your brilliance appreciated by others can help you let go of the notion that you're a fraud. Finally, some of us need to more actively celebrate in order to feel the full force of our successes. If this sounds like you, consider taking yourself to dinner, texting a friend about your accomplishments, or even buying yourself something small. Whatever you choose, do something, okay? It doesn't have to be huge, but it should matter to you. When we recognize our wins, regardless of their size, our brains release the feel-good neurotransmitter dopamine, which motivates us to accomplish even more. Now, the next point is use social media mindfully. You heard, use social media mindfully. The internet can be very good and very evil when it comes to building up or breaking down feelings of imposter syndrome. We're not able to look into the lives of popular role models on social media platforms like LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We can interact with, follow, and connect with people we never had access to before. You can use these powerful tools to research people you admire and see what they're doing with your lives. Find out how they got to where they are today and learn from their success stories. Michelle Obama, for instance, is a powerhouse woman who many people admire. But guess what? A quick Google search will bring you to a YouTube video in which she speaks about feelings of imposter syndrome she experienced throughout her career.
You know, age helps you with imposter syndrome. So I'm 55 now, and I've seen it. I've been waiting to be as bad as people told me I would be, you know. I've been waiting for when I was going to fall and mess up and fail. I've been waiting because that's what they said. I didn't belong at Princeton, right? I applied to Princeton University. My college counselor said, you know, that's school's too much for you. Well, I applied anyway. I got in. I was waiting for it to be hard and for everybody else to be so much smarter. They weren't. They weren't. They were just told that they belonged there. Same thing was true when I applied to Harvard Law School. Maybe I shouldn't be there. Got there. Nope. They're not any smarter than me. So with all the practice of just going into the room that you weren't supposed to be in and being there and occupying those seats and just doing you and knowing that your thoughts are just as relevant, your experiences are just as important, your insight is just as valuable, so that you will share it and use it and practice being there. That's the work you have to do if you feel like an imposter.
The risks she took regardless resulted in her success. While this is admittedly an exceptional example, Obama's story is a powerful reminder to never doubt your own potential. Having said that, there is a caveat. I would recommend that you be very intentional when choosing your role models online. There are times when you may find accessible people within your network who you can connect with, people you can meet in person, build relationships with, and even turn to for advice. But on all social media platforms, there is a risk of following people, aka influencers, leading perfectly staged lives, who might contribute to feelings of inadequacy and poor self-esteem. Yeah. To gain the benefits of the internet and surpass the downsides, practice self-awareness as you scroll through your feeds and score the search engines. Unfollow people who bring you down and focus on the educational or inspirational content that feeds your best self, that reminds you to express gratitude for your wins, to give yourself grace and visualize the future you want. This next point is a very important one. Make a plan. This advice may seem obvious, but the idea here is to be strategic, not reactive. For instance, let's say you've tried the advice I gave earlier and you still feel like a total imposter. What can you do? To avoid letting your nerves get the better of you, I would suggest coming up with an organized plan for success. When you feel like a fraud, you may naturally panic. To prove yourself, you may produce a long list of goals and deadlines to hit without taking the time to strategize how you will reach them. As a result, you may end up entirely overwhelmed and unable to execute your objectives effectively. You set yourself up to fail before you even begin. A better way to manage your anxious feelings is to get organized. Break down your goals into smaller, more manageable chunks and plan to tackle them one at a time. While completing a vast number of tasks can feel overwhelming, being consistent will get you far. Lastly, you can protect your ego from the start by reminding yourself that you will face obstacles. In fact, you should expect and prepare for them to avoid any soul-crushing setback or surprises. Remember that even the most accomplished people have room for improvement. Making mistakes is inevitable. If you learn from those mistakes, it's okay to fail every now and then. Part of the journey to overcoming imposter syndrome is learning from each experience you face. Not every piece of advice will work for everyone. So take notes along the way and reflect on what feels best to you in different situations. Adjust your plan based on your newfound knowledge and keep adjusting. Imposter syndrome is a battle that you can, and with practice, will win. Yes. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. Kindly leave your thoughts in the comment section, okay? If you haven't subscribed, please do not hesitate to hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and please click on the like button to give me a big thumbs up. I'll see you soon, God willing. Till then, let the conversation continue.